Currency space. I am your host, Piter, joined as always by Ozzy. There's a ton to get to, so let's jump right in. Please do your own research. This is not financial advice. Beautiful day. We got green candles ahead of us. Bitcoin testing the 31K region. Will it hold is the question. Is this just another Uptober pump that will soon be over, or the start of a bull run without the Fed pivot and all the macro headwinds that we have? And then there's also the question, are we witnessing like the quote-unquote great decoupling? We have the S&P down 3% in the last 5 days and in a general downtrend since August, while Bitcoin has rallied from 25K since then, so up about 20-25%. I mean, what Larry Fink is calling a flight to quality. And we got a chart up here. This 31.5K region is a really interesting point. Do you see, you've been looking at this, Ozzy?
Yeah, I've been looking at this chart a lot. I think the 31.5K to 32K region, it's a little bit of a range right there that's pretty interesting in terms of bull market support, looking at both 2021 during both rallies, and then again it's been a bear market resistance point. We saw it most recently in June, but it also resisted this zone in April, and then again in August of last year, June and August of last year. So this is a pretty key area to be examining. Really important to see whether Bitcoin breaks this region or if we go and visit the lows again.
I think breaking it and retesting it will be a significant factor in judging whether we're actually in a bull run, but hard to imagine. There's a lot of macro headwinds, but yeah, it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch it play out, and we have a ton of news to get to as to why we've seen this kind of uptick at the end here, at the end of this long chart.
Yeah, I think you're right in highlighting that there's a lot of macro headwinds that aren't leading to this, like leading me to feel that 100% this is sustainable. If we're looking into the future, I think this is maybe very news driven, and we'll talk about the news that's affecting this market, why we are seeing this movement from Bitcoin right now.
Yeah, in terms of the macro headwinds, we have a Fed that has not pivoted. It doesn't look like it's going to be pivoting anytime soon. I mean, we have a potential recession that people have been talking about. End of 2023, beginning of 2024. We have the fact that we're in a pre-halving year, which tends to be a struggle for Bitcoin to rally in, just historically. So yeah, there's a lot of factors going on. But let's get into some of the there's a lot of excitement around the Bitcoin Spot ETF. But before we get into that, we had an update that did seem to affect the market, pump it up a little bit. Ripple was celebrating dismissed charges. So the SEC said it would dismiss its lawsuit against Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse and co-founder Chris Larsen over whether they're liable in their involvement in illegal security sales. And there were like three things that happened in that Torres ruling. One, they called the Garlinghouse Larsen sales securities, they called institutional sales securities, but they said the programmatic sales, the ones that were done on exchanges, were not securities. So this is just one aspect of it. So despite dismissing the charges, other SEC-related charges remain on the table. So the SEC and Ripple intend to meet and confer on a potential briefing schedule with respect to the pending issues in the case. So yeah, like we said, Torres made those rulings in the past. A little bit of an update here, but positive news for Ripple.
It's positive news. Some are rumoring on whether or not this is just the SEC closing that case so that they can appeal it by stopping their lawsuit against the co-founders. They can necessarily appeal the whole case, whereas before, if they let the case just continue, they couldn't appeal the earlier decision until the case against Garlinghouse and Larsen was settled. So this is a really important piece, and whether the SEC does go after Garlinghouse and Larsen or go after XRP and Ripple again through an appeal, that's going to be a big difference maker. They're still considering what remedies are important with respect to its institutional sales of XRP. They're not really dropping the case. It's not a surrender by any means. it could be a treat.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it is still unresolved, and I know there's kind of a lot of celebration around it. But yeah, this is still an unresolved issue, and when you're talking about the institutional sales being securities, this has widespread implications because you're talking about all these VC sales, that happen before projects and coins are launched that will have an effect on.
Exactly. That still has a massive effect on the entire market and all of cryptocurrency. So I don't necessarily know if getting super excited now is the right move. I think
it's just what we do in October. We get excited.
Exactly. I think it's October, and paired with the other news that we've gotten in the last little while, kind of just fueled a little bit of a good feeling in the crypto market right now. And so people are willing to go buy some Bitcoin because they feel like it.
Well, Cathay Wood was feeling good getting into the spot ETF stuff. Did you see this story?
Yeah, she's saying that they're progressing and that the SEC's really changed its behavior around the spot ETF in recent communications. So this is pretty strong, especially after comments made by Gary Gensler last week, where he said when the spot ETFs will be approved, they'll be trading on the stock exchange.
You got to listen really careful to hear that when. I listened to that, and I was not as blown away by it, but he did say it.
Yeah, he said when, not if, and I think
it is subtle, though.
It's a subtle difference, and it could be a thing where he meant if, not when, and so there's a whole.
But this backs it up a little bit, like what Cathay Woods is, and also who was it, Mike Novogratz. They're saying the way they're interacting with us is different. They're actually asking questions. The fact that they ask questions is just a change of behavior. Therefore, quote, therefore, I do think hopes are rising that a number of coin ETFs will be approved. What was the Mike Novogratz quote?
He suggested that they might see approvals before the end of the year for multiple ETFs.
Yeah, but he had, it's all heading in the right direction. When you go to the comment period and when they're asking about it, all seems to be more specific than general, and that was kind of exciting. It's like the what they're asking has changed.
Yeah, and I think that is a really important point. We are seeing a change in attitude from the SEC towards these ETFs. It reiterates my thesis, your thesis, that they are going to come before the next bull run, and it's just a matter of exactly when. I personally think that the deadline of the ARK 21 shares Bitcoin spot ETF being January 10th of 2024, that's likely when we see most of them green lighted, either in a bulk, all of them get approved that day, or it's a approval on their deadline, but with you can't release until X date, which is one common date for all of the ETFs.
No, it's a fair point because the January is the first final deadline, and they can approve other ones early. Is they kind of have to come up with a decision on this January 10th date. So everyone's really excited about this particular date.
Yeah, and I just don't think that they will do it before the end of the year because they are still asking questions. And I think that the fact that they're still asking questions means that they probably aren't going to be ready because the big deadline that's coming up is like right around November 11th or November 17th, somewhere in that range. And I just, based off the information that we know and the fact that they're still asking questions to ARK and other ETF people that are seeking approval, I just don't think that we see that approval before that January 10th date.
Well, kind of moving on with some other ETF updates and news. Grayscale, Blackrock, and Fidelity have updated their applications. On Tuesday it was Fidelity, and on Thursday it was Grayscale and Blackrock. But Fidelity provided an update prospectus to the SEC on its Bitcoin application addressing similar questions that were posed to ARK. Some of its new details include wording around the mechanics of a Bitcoin hard fork, Bitcoin custodial arrangements, adherence to GAAP, Bitcoin energy consumption, and Grayscale and BlackRock did their updates as well. and just further embeds them in the ongoing dialogue with the SEC. These are financial institutions that have resilience, have not only shown resilience, but also adaptability as they modify their approaches to gain the regulated nods. I mean, they're working hard to get this done.
They are working very hard to get this done, and
there's big money involved here.
I also think that the fact that they're still filing, updates their applications shows that they won't be ready before the end of this year. I think this is...
Yeah, because like each these are slow-moving things, and there's going to be back and forth after each update.
Exactly. You file an update. The SEC takes at least 2 or 3 weeks to review your updates.
Right.
They come back maybe with a few clarification questions. Takes a week to get a response. Yada yada yada, and we're almost at the end of October now. Like, we're a week from November now. And then November.
I don't want October to end, dude.
I don't want October to end, but we're only a week away from the end of October, and at that point,
Halloween's coming.
At that point, we got November 11th, we're from November 11th, and I just don't see that being a feasible deadline to get all of those nods through. So really, it's Christmas. Everything slows down heading into Christmas and end of the year. So I think we won't see everything approved before January.
Yeah, people got to reallocate their funds into Christmas presents.
That and the SEC, you probably have like more time off requests around heading into Christmas, right around Christmas, as people need to get things done. So
time off. What is that?
So the big thing is, I think Morgan kind of agrees with us. They expect spot Bitcoin ETF approvals to come within months. So within months, that means I'd say more than 1 or 2. So that rules out kind of November and December. So naturally January, I'd say January through March.
A January 10th deadline in their review or their report that they gave.
Yeah, exactly. They say before January 10th, but basically they mean January 10th.
That's a hard deadline, so they have to say something.
Yeah, they think that they'll likely approve of the spot ETFs all at once, and given that it didn't appeal, the SEC didn't appeal the Grayscale case, that just heightens the likelihood that we see approval in the near future.
Well, I think this JPMorgan report is just proof that the market's excited about it, and still further proof with the Spot Bitcoin ETF as an all-time high on Google searches. So there's just a level of excitement around the Spot Bitcoin ETF.
Absolutely. And if there's excitement about the Spot Bitcoin ETFs, I hope there's excitement about our content. Please consider liking and subscribing to our video and to our channel. Help spread our channel and our videos all across YouTube so that we can help inform everybody. Keep this great content coming.
It is a labor of love, but gosh, it would be nice to make a little bit of passive income on the side with this, wouldn't it?
It would be, but really, it just helps. It really helps get the right information out there rather than the propaganda, the speculation, and the hype that a lot of channels try to push.
Well, speaking of hype, we do have some breaking news. A U.S. court, this is just breaking today. We record Monday, we post on Tuesday, so this is breaking news on Monday. U.S. court issues a mandate on the Grayscale ruling, paving the way for SEC to review spot Bitcoin ETF. So filing in the U.S. Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia Circuit, they've issued a formal mandate requiring Grayscale Investments' application for a spot Bitcoin exchange-traded fund to be reviewed by the Security and Exchange Commission. This was expected by many after the SEC did not appeal an August 29th ruling requiring Grayscale's Bitcoin ETF application. But it looks like Grayscale is going to get another shot at their spot ETF. All eyes on Gary.
Absolutely. I think all eyes are on Gary, and he's moving carefully, just like we've seen from the Fed. At the same time, iShares, the iShares Bitcoin has been listed on the DT, which is the depository.
I've never heard of this DTCC, but still, this is cool.
So they're the clearinghouse for NASDAQ trades, and This is basically announcing the ticker for their Bitcoin trust, which is IBTC.
This is the Blackrock one?
No, this is the iShares one. I guess it's Blackrock iShares. So
Yeah, this is the Blackrock one. So yeah, we got a name, we got a ticker signal.
ticker symbol, which is IBTC.
Sweet.
So this is part of bringing the ETF to the market, but it doesn't really mean that it's going to be right away. It's just
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's happening, but yeah, still,
it's
a
just
little more hype around it.
It's just basically claiming their ticker symbol before others do. Have you heard about stablecoins on Bitcoin yet? Because
This gets a little. I mean, it has to do with a Taproot upgrade that happened a little ago, and kind of the ordinal, the other coins that are being launched on Bitcoin is connected to something different. But this is Lightning Labs on the Lightning Network. So Bitcoin Layer 2 infrastructure developer Lightning Labs has released its Taproot Assets protocol on the main network, enabling the issuance of stables. So this would help, grease the wheels and make it easier for people to on and off ramp into Bitcoin and help with the network effect.
I still don't see a huge number of people using the network, but having stablecoins could help if fees are managed. I'll definitely be interested to see what happens. And we have seen Bitcoin enthusiasts again on X saying that it's huge and that it will let the Bitcoin DeFi flower bloom. So
I've heard this about Bitcoin and Bitcoin just moves slower, and that everything that is being developed on Ethereum and all these others will eventually be absorbed by Bitcoin because it's just the argument or an argument that it will everything. Like Bitcoin is just like a black hole. Everything will come to Bitcoin eventually, but just slowly. It moves slowly. It moves safely. That kind of a thing. So that DeFi, what we see in DeFi around, on the Ethereum network, on all these new layer ones, that potential for it to come to Bitcoin is there someday.
I think it's possible. I think it's possible that everything slowly moves onto Bitcoin, but I just don't think that day will come fast enough for Bitcoin. I think
the network effect will be too big on all the other ones.
And it won't have the effect Bitcoin maxis think it will, because they're always late. If it's already easier to do on another chain, people will do it on that other chain, as long as that other chain doesn't have some major security flaws. I think Ethereum is really, if Ethereum does it, it doesn't, and Ethereum and the layer 2s that scale it help keep those fees cheap like they are, then no one's going to bother going to Bitcoin for it.
Move fast and break things.
Yeah, I don't necessarily preach that philosophy, but I think that it at least moves in part in truth.
Well, speaking of DeFi on the Bitcoin blockchain, I found this little article really fascinating. And for the reasons that I mentioned before, that there's this general argument that potentially everything on all these other smart contract platforms can eventually come to Bitcoin, where it's just a ledger and it's just for transactions. It could actually house all these. There's this project called New Bitcoin City. It's marketed as Friend on Bitcoin, but it's they have about 2 million in total value locked compared to Friendtech's 40 million. If you're not familiar with Friendtech, it's a socialfi platform which allows shareholders or key holders access to influencer through chats. So you buy a key and then more access to your influencer, there are some differences. It's on the Bitcoin blockchain, first of all, but you can deposit in ETH and as well. It just may be more secure to SIM swapping and hacks because it requires no deposits or email use. And it already has an audit by Peck Shield that was finished on October 20th, which identified no critical issues. It's no guarantee or anything. And then another thing, they made a fractionalized key system. So on Friend, once you get up to 35, 40 keys sold, it starts to get really expensive. But on this system, you can sell 0.1 of a key. So you can lower the denominations, and then I believe the influencers have some say as to what's provided or what the minimum needs to be, that kind of a thing. And then they have a roadmap. within this system, they want to make all these, I think they call it, but that constitutes the roadmap. They want to have a BRC20 NFT marketplace. They want to have a DeFi district, a place to explore different dApps, DEXs, bridges, etc., that are going to be built on Bitcoin, or that are, they're going to have an AI section. So pretty ambitious.
Very ambitious. Feels kind of like, oh, these are all the hype words. So we'll build, our roadmap's going to build all of these things. And
right. That's fair. Yeah.
We already have a ton of DEXs and bridges. We also already have, I mean, do we need AI on Bitcoin? I don't know. It feels weird. AI is everywhere. And then Metaverse, I don't know how Metaverse will work on Bitcoin. That feels like a real...
It seems like we haven't figured out how Metaverse works in Web3
period
at all. Yeah.
So,
it's like exciting about, but yeah, what does it actually mean? Yeah. Until people are spending a lot of time in the metaverse, which I think the tech isn't there yet for it to be affordable for the masses, that'll probably change things a little bit. Like in his generation, he may never go to work. Throw on a headset, go shopping, and have it shipped to you and try on clothes, thing. It's kind of easy to imagine it eventually get it going there.
Yeah, exactly. That being said, Elizabeth Warren does not want it.
Let's get a little FUD in here. It can't all be good news.
Yeah, we can't just have Uptober. We gotta have FUD. Elizabeth Warren leading lawmakers basically attack crypto for crypto-backed, with more than 100 lawmakers demanding top officials share their plans for heading off crypto finance terrorism. It was originally signed last day and was penned to National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Brian Nelson, who is the Undersecretary for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence at the department. They cited reports that crypto funds had supported Hamas in the months before the attack. They also used evidence from North Korea and her anti-crypto army. Warren has been advocating against crypto and advocating for legislation to target money laundering and sanction abuse. So this is not anything new for Elizabeth Warren and her FUD factory.
Yeah, I mean, using national security fears as a way to take away people's rights and freedoms is nothing new for politicians. So it's, they have this new technology that's spreading rapidly and they want to find to rein it in. I mean, using this type of argument is nothing. I posted something like this in the Obsidian Council, and I don't know if it's true, but that Hamas requested don't send stuff on Bitcoin because it's so easy to monitor. You know what I mean? Now, how true that is, I don't know, but still interesting angle to look at this. It's like, we don't want to use this. It's an immutable ledger. It's triple entry accounting that everyone see. That the triple entry, the third entry is it's public. Everyone can see the ledger.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I think people that are against crypto will use anything that's, in the headlines right now to push it. And so...
Yeah, like, what's that Winston Churchill quote? Don't let a good crisis, I forget exactly how it goes. Don't let a good crisis go to it. Yeah. Exactly. So, yeah, it does feel like that. I can't help but get that quote out of my head. Not that I know it 100%.
Yeah, heading into this week, we do have some macro. We're going to be looking at new home sales, which is forecasted to go up slightly compared to last month. Nothing about steady. We're expecting GDP for Q3 to come out on Thursday. Median forecast is right now 4.7, up from 2.1 in Q2. That does, if we hit target or what happens. In addition, Friday we've got multi announcements. We got personal income and personal spending predicted to be at about 0.4 and 0.5% compared to 0% both in last month. In addition, we got PCE, which is one measure of inflation. It was only one last month, and we are expecting core PCE to be about 3 right now, according to median forecasts, which would bring the year-over-year core PCE to 3.7 compared to 3.9. We'll see if we hit targets this Friday or if spells the end of October. Outside of that, we've got SME, which right now hasn't shifted majorly. We've got the next meeting in just over 8 days on November 1st with unanimous support for no hike in this coming meeting. I am generally inclined to say the same. It was
interesting though. It used to be like 90-10 with rate hike, and now it's 98 no change and 1% to the cut side. I thought that was pretty interesting. That changed since last week's show.
It is a pretty interesting change. The 2% that is definitely interesting. We're looking in December. We're seeing 75% no change, 24% up by quarter basis point, and then 1% cut. So probably the same person who is anticipating cuts. But we're still seeing the majority assuming longer, and it's only in about March where more than 10 of forecasters are expecting the rate down. So too worried. I think the higher for longer narrative is holding strong, and we probably don't see cuts until at least March, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's July.
So the Fed's going to come in and put a stamp at the end of October on November.
I feel like that would be a very likely reason and something that could happen.
Yeah. I mean that's one of the kind of major macro headwinds, and they're just like, nothing's going to change for a while. Stamp.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the whole message around careful will probably be reiterated, but more as a strong message in terms of not cutting. Cutting isn't going to happen. That will potentially sour some of the market's optimism right now. Also, some Bitcoin optimism in the Argentina election, which is being settled in a runoff between former economy minister Sergio Massa and the libertarian and pro-Bitcoin outsider Javier Milei is not helping Bitcoin.
Sorry, I kept talking over you. I apologize. But the election was just Sunday. It happened on Sunday, and there was some excitement that Milei was in the lead. He did not win. He lost 37-30, but no one got enough of the vote. There was a third party candidate. There's going to be a runoff, and it's not that long. I think people were a little bit excited that the next El Salvador, potentially, Milei is going to do some drastic changes. That's really what he kind of represents, is just drastic changes. This Massa guy is just like, we don't need steady as we go, work with IMF, that kind of a thing. Whereas Milei represents like radical shifts, and which essentially means, something for Bitcoin, which is kind of, especially in Latin America, where we Salvador, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And it happens. I really hope he gets it just for the Bitcoin and for helping spell that message. We'll see what happens.
Yes. I mean, it's looking like more of a now than it was, but still an exciting story, fun to watch. Yeah, he's still in the running. No doubt about it.
He's not the one being dropped off. He is still number 2 and only down by 7%, which is significant, but considering a third party 25%, maybe there's a significant percentage that goes towards Milei.
That third party count, it was the traditional opposition party, to the like the two party system, whatever. Yeah. There's the party in power, then the opposition party. So there's a chance that more of that goes to Milei, just reading that on the surface.
Exactly. So,
but I mean, we're getting into Argentina, which,
yeah,
I am that is deep water. I don't know that much about it.
Yeah, that being said, as we've seen Bitcoin surge, we are seeing surge. News on them as well. Chainlink surged 25% rally with a notable uptick in whale transactions and unique interacting addresses and overall trading volume. They're getting ready to roll out their highly anticipated update in the form of Chainlink staking version 0.2 later this year. So this is definitely driving some hype, and we're definitely seeing some excitement in Chainlink. At the same time, Solana was also up almost 27% in the last 7 days. They have a big conference coming up in about a week. So definitely seeing Solana maybe news, the rumor sell the news going on Solana right now, and potentially just benefiting a little bit extra from this Bitcoin rally. Fantom as well. Their major upgrade testnet launched on October 24th, or is launching October 24th, and called Sonic, and so it claims to increase the throughput by about 4x. So potentially seeing some major rally from Sonic, from the Sonic upgrade. And then finally Injective, which is probably the most interesting of these major movers in terms of why the hype is there. They're up about 32% in the last 7 days. Their decentralized exchange, Helix, is introducing launch features that will allow traders to trade futures contracts on tokens before their official launch. So this is traditionally only allowed for early investors, insiders, and so prior to full exchange listing. So Helix is going to make this accessible to the masses and democratize the access to the anticipated tokens. Their first token that they'll be allowing people to get, code TI, ticker TIA, if you didn't get in on that airdrop. So definitely some big news from some of the vaults. So watch.
Yeah, that's some alpha, but financial advice. And thank you all very much for listening to Decentralized News. Please like, subscribe. Really appreciate it. Great for the algorithm. Our goal is to provide unfiltered content that helps the entire space grow. Just remember, once again, this is not financial advice. We are not financial advisor. This show is presented for educational and entertainment purposes only. Thank you for your support, and stay tuned for